Welcome to our Meet the Experts Film Writers panel. We're here with Edoardo Ponti from The Life Ahead and Robert Jury from Working Man. First off, since you're both directors as well as writers of your films, I was wondering if you're more passionate about one or the other, or if you're drawn to both the writing and directing processes more or less equally. Let's start with Eduardo.
There are many phases to this process, and each phase is, in essence, a writing phase. You have the phase of actually putting the words on a paper and really, creating the first iteration of this. But then when you start shooting the movie, you're essentially rewriting it with images, then you're cutting it, you're rewriting it through the juxtaposition of the images. And then when you start with mix and the color timing, you're rewriting it again with sound. So in a sense, you're always writing, and part of this process is in effect a writing process. But so they go truly hand in hand.
For my part, Daniel, I would say really and honestly, I'm a writer first. I think of the screenplay and that time that I have to spend on a story is kind of my most sacred, and the time that honestly I feel like I enjoy the most, because you do have that time to sit with your thoughts and develop it. I think particularly with in the case of an independent film like Working Man, we had 20 days of shooting, no reshoots. We didn't have the time, the budget for either of those things. So you really have the pressure of getting what you get on the day that you have it, right? But in the process of writing, I feel like for the most part, and I think screenwriters can relate to this. You're kind of the king of the castle completely. You're moving the chess pieces the way you like, and I just really enjoy that process. The editing room is similar in that respect. You have a little more um, finite ability with what you have, but still a little more time and process. But I'd have to say I'm ultimately a writer first in my case.
What drew you sort of to film as a medium for telling stories in particular, Robert?
Boy, I think it's just always been a love for the movies, right? And that form rather than, I was a kid in America in the 80s, and so I grew up with a lot of sitcoms, and just like everybody else who grew up in this country. And but I think as I grew older, I started to appreciate just what the form of film and what you can say and do, and I've always been fascinated by how much you can say and do in that effectively 2 hour time frame, 2 to 3, depending on, right, the film and so forth. But it's remarkable to me how that's held up over decades and decades. And I'm also just and I miss going to the theater right now. It's one of the things I relish doing, and I can't wait to do it once it's safe to go back inside. And I think just that experience, seeing a story told on the big screen, I would just have to say it's something that's, you know followed me from childhood, probably like a lot of screenwriters.
Uh, for me, really, film combines, all my loves. It combines storytelling, it combines music, it combines, speaking to people, trying to inspire people. Um, it's just a medium that truly kind of fulfills so many different parts of me. You know, I think it's the most evocative way also to tell stories that today can truly inspire people, truly move people, truly engage people. Yeah.
Now, film is also sort of, sometimes limited by what you can and can't do in terms of resources. So, like as a writer, like your imagination has an unlimited budget, but in terms of a film, there's always certain thresholds you're within. So, like, do you ever write with sort of resources in mind or budget in mind? Does it like affect scenes you include or how you write them, Eduardo?
Limitations are a wonderful thing because limitations, help you, there where you don't have money, you have to use creativity and imagination. So the less money you have, the more it allows you to be creative in how to go around a problem. And maybe by way of going around a problem, you find a totally novel way of telling that moment. So for me, limitations, budgetary ones, are always a way to push the envelope. So I very much welcome them. Very much welcome them.
I'd agree. I do too. And specifically for Working Man, um, we knew we'd have limitations from budget. So absolutely, I wrote with that in mind. But fortunately, in the case of our story, it's the sort of film that uh, you're it calls for a budget and a look that's more authentic and limited in respects of where you're going to be, locations. Um, just there's no big car chases, there's no explosions, there's no special effects in a story like Working Man. So it's just sort of naturally engineered for a smaller budget, which in our case was really fortunate.
And what is just the sort of the practical everyday process of writing? Like, where does it start in terms of like, you start with the blank screen and the blank page, and you got to put something on it. What's sort of like the first step for that, Robert, for you?
Usually it's a big mess for me. To be perfectly honest, I try to. I believe it was Kurt Vonnegut who referred to swoopers and bashers, and the difference between the two being swoopers go through a draft quickly and keep coming back and revising it, whereas bashers try to get things perfect as you go along. And I'm a recovering basher. I think I'd like to bash everything, but again, as I've written more and more over the years, I just find that if I am able to be disciplined and swoop through, kind of go through and give myself the permission to write loosely and whatever I want, and then come back and work on the tightness of revision. That's kind of the process. As at least an overview. That's how I look at it. And you've got to show up every day, right? You just have to show up and hope that the writing gods will smile on you on those off days that you're doing good work. So it's most days you're frustrated, I think, and I think most writers can relate to that as well. But those small victories, right? As you feel like you're on the right idea, it's there's no feeling like it.
For me, it's all about structure. It's very important for me to build that initial skeleton, something that really contains. Once you build the structure of a vessel that you can't sink, then you start adding all those things that give it heart, give it soul. But at the very beginning, for me, it has to be structure. So really, writing a treatment that is, very detailed, but can really kind of trace that emotional arc that I'm going for, and not only the emotional arc of the characters, but really how the audience, how will we take the audience on this emotional journey. So once that is, and really, the mistake I do is that I tend to refine the treatment too much, and that's the problem. I need to points. Okay, enough of that. Now we're going to get into the script, and that transition for me is very hard to negotiate because I could work on a treatment for like 16 years and never write that script. So there's a point where that's it. It's good enough. It's something. Now let's really, get our hands dirty, roll up our sleeves, and actually write the screenplay. But for me, it has to come, from structure.
And this day and age is sort of obviously a difficult period for the industry, as we've touched on a little bit earlier with COVID and productions having to shut down this year and theaters having to shut down. But writing is still a pursuit that one can pursue in isolation, like from afar. So I'm wondering if the creative juices have been flowing, or if this has been a period of just, because it's different for different people, where some people find themselves being very productive during a situation of hardship, and others it's just not there at the moment. So what's that been like for you, Eduardo?
This has been era of contemplation. I think, the pandemic really has given me the ability to sit still and to allow myself not to be attacked by what normally modern life attacked you with, and just really think and really understand what it is that this piece should express. I was posting when the pandemic hit, and I was able to use the time to spend, a much longer schedule with my composer Gabriel Yared on the movie. For example, COVID gave us 8 more weeks to work on the movie because we were completely shut down. And because we were shut down, we continued the musical conversation. And that was something really, really wonderful, for us to be able to share that time together that we never thought that we would have on the music of the movie. So, and also what was wonderful is that it forces everybody to be in the same house, your family, and either that shows that you actually don't like each other as a family, or you realize, oh my God, actually, I love these people. And modern life, because you're so busy, makes you forget who you're with, who your children are, because you're so overwhelmed by the static of modern life. And when that static dissipates, who are you living with? And we realize that we actually like and love the people that we live with. And that was nice too.
Yeah, I can relate to the getting to know the people in your household intimately, Eduardo. Sometimes more intimately than what you like, and it's rooting on your writing process sometimes. Yeah, but so true. I think it is a special time for reflection. You know, during the first few days of Corona, when we were really on lockdown and going back to the spring, I was a ball of fire coming out of the gates. I was like, now I'm really going to just tear it up and write about 6 screenplays in the course of 6 months. And I succeeded in writing a really bad draft, and now I'm sort of circulating between 3 others right now. But it's not. I think just the circumstances of the days we're in and the experience we're living through. I don't know how you can kind of normally go about your day, and it's in a way that you would in an ordinary year. And I can also, like Eduardo, I've come to fully appreciate these people who are around me more often. I have a couple of kids who are, going to school online, so they're here, they're around in ways that they weren't before. My wife is here and around in ways that she wasn't before when I was writing. So I'm trying to appreciate that as well, and just maybe not try to fit my writing into such a strict schedule as maybe it used to be. Just accept where we are and know that there's the silver lining beyond this all, and we'll return to something maybe resembling normal in the not so distant future.
Well, I want to congratulate both of you on your films, and thank you both for joining me today to talk about them and all things writing. I love speaking to writers. It's just one of my passions personally as well. So congratulations again, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. And great to see you, Robert.
Good to see you too, Eduardo. Good luck.